So I woke up one morning a couple weeks ago and I thought to myself, I need a mini me, like right now. I have gotten super into watching Blythe doll custom videos. If you don't know what a Blythe doll is, it is a doll that originally came out in the 70s, I believe. The dolls have really big, expressive eyes, and I really like the way that they look. I think that they are super cute, not only how they come from the factory, but also how people customize them. There is a giant community of Blythe doll lovers that range from all different ages and all walks of life. Some Blythe doll lovers love just the factory dolls, others do love to customize the dolls, and some love both. I'm one of those people. I just love the dolls in general, but customizing them is just a really relaxing thing to watch on YouTube, and that's definitely how I started to want my own. These people who customize Blythe dolls, they are so talented, and the craft is something that is a multi-step process. It's something that is really hard to do in my opinion, and I really wanted to give it a shot. So once I decided that I wanted to customize my own Blythe doll, there were a couple things that I had to decide. I knew from the get-go that I wasn't going to be purchasing a real, authentic Blythe doll for many reasons. One, it's really expensive. I looked on eBay. I did try to see if it was possible, but then I also started to think about how this is literally my first doll customization ever, so I don't necessarily want to mess up a real doll. So I went ahead and I started researching my options, and I found that they did sell the 3 sizes of Blythe dolls on AliExpress. They are not authentic, but they look really similar and have the same mechanisms as real Blythe dolls. So I thought that this would be just like the perfect option. So there are 3 different sizes of Blythe dolls. There is a regular Blythe. I think that they're called Neo Blythes. I could be totally wrong. A Neo Blythe has a mechanism that is a pull string, and that causes the eyes to move and change colors. So you have many different options for your eyes, and they're very cute, very expressive. I love pictures of Blythes because of their eyes and just how like attitudey they look. So the Neo Blythes are around 11 inches tall, so they're about a foot tall. That's quite big for a doll. I wanted mine to be more of a doll that I could take with me. I imagined putting her in like a little clear case and attaching her to my bag as like a bag charm, you know, things like that. So I knew that the 11-inch Blythe doll would not work for me. For a middle Blythe, they're about 20 centimeters tall, so they are definitely not as big. Their mechanism does work a bit differently. It's more like a wheel on the back of their head, and then it just moves the eyes like this. So there's no like changing eye color, but again, they're still very expressive and they're really cute. Ultimately, I decided on a petite Blythe. Now, they are tiny in comparison to a regular Neo Blythe. I just thought that that would, one, work better for, again, a bag charm. It also just felt like a more doable task. So that's ultimately why I decided to go with a petite Blythe. A petite Blythe is only 11 centimeters tall. Now, with these petite Blythes and petite Blythes in general, their eyes work very differently than the other 2 options. They just have open and closed like sleep eyes. So when they are laying down, their eyes are closed. When they're up, their eyes are open. So I got to work. I went on AliExpress and I started checking out all my different options. I eventually found this listing here and this doll. So that is what I decided to go ahead and purchase. So for this Blythe doll, I thought it was very important to have some rules and a checklist of everything that I wanted. So here is my checklist. The first thing that I wanted to make sure that my Blythe doll had was a purse. I also wanted her to have a necklace. I'm somebody who loves jewelry as well, so that's just something that I pictured her wearing. Glossy lips were definitely a must. I'm not somebody who wears gloss often, but on a doll, I think it just makes them look so cute and more alive and just better looking, so that's why I pictured her with some gloss. I wanted to make sure that she had shoes, obviously, and I also pictured her with wired headphones. I love wired headphones and I prefer them over like over-the-ear headphones, so I wanted her to have some like classic Apple white headphones, and I also wanted them to be attached to a little phone, and I wanted that phone to have a phone charm. I had a very like clear idea of what I wanted her to look like in my head. Finally, I just wanted her to have like a beanie. I think that like beanies just make those kinds of dolls look really cute. They have really big heads, and I just thought that she would be cute with a beanie. So I set essentially one rule for myself for this little challenge. I wanted to make sure that the only money that I was really spending was on the doll itself, and then like a very few select like clothing and accessory items that I obviously didn't have and I didn't think that I would be able to make. And then that's it. I wanted to make everything else, and I didn't want to buy any supplies. I didn't want to buy special pigments or paints. I just wanted to use everything that I had and just see what I could do. So that is my checklist and my rules, and I was ready to go ahead and get started. So this is what she looked like when I first got her. Her hair is still definitely like too gray. I don't know what I was kind of thinking, but it's definitely not my hair color, but that's okay. My first impressions of her, she was so cute. She had a super shiny face, and that was definitely something I wanted to make matte, so I took note of that. Overall, she was like a perfect blank canvas, so I was really excited to get started. The first thing I did was sand her face down, and I made sure that she was matte, and I sanded all of like her existing makeup off. I could probably have used like acetone, but I just sanded it off and it worked fine. So I wanted to do like a trial makeup run, and I knew that I wasn't going to keep this makeup that I'm doing. I just wanted to see what colored pencils would be like. When I watch people do doll customizations, they use watercolor pencils, I think. I do not have those, and I was like, maybe I could just use like regular colored pencils. So I did that, and as you can see, it did not look good at all. I was not happy with the way that that face up looked, so I just don't get used to it at all. But I tried to put it like around her eyes. It just looked really gritty and rough, and again, I wasn't a huge fan. So as for all of the clothing and accessory items that I ordered along with her on AliExpress, I ordered 2 different pairs of pants. I ordered a beanie for her because I didn't think I could make one myself. And then I ordered her this really cute, tiny, like knit looking cardigan. The reason I ordered this was I was scrolling on AliExpress and I saw that and it reminded me of Coraline. And I was like, I need that like for my doll. So I ordered it. I also bought her like a bag, but it ended up being way too big for her, so I just tossed it. I did not end up using it. So I did a little try on with the clothes, and I saw how they were fitting her at this point and just how she was coming along in general, and to have an idea of how cute she would be with her face up that I did. It's still so bad, but again, it will definitely get better, and I really like how she looks so far, so I was excited. After I just was so done with the face, I did not like it at all. I wanted to cut her hair a little bit. Her hair was so beautiful and really long, like literally I think all the way down to her feet. I did consider keeping it, but I really want this doll to be not like realistic, but an art doll. Like, I just really wanted to put a lot of care into everything about her, and her hair was just way too thick and doll-like, and I just wanted it to look a little better. And I do actually really like how her hair turned out. It's a tiny bit shorter than I originally wanted it to be. So next I just dived straight into all of her accessories that I wanted to make for her. So I have Crayola air dry clay. That is what I used for a lot of her tiny accessories. The first thing I did was sculpt a little phone for her. I sculpted the little parts of the headphones that would go on her ears. I also sculpted a cute little phone charm that I was going to put on the phone, and I just let that dry overnight. And then the next day, once they were ready, I began to paint everything. So for the phone, I painted a little pink phone case because I have a little pink phone case. And then for the screen, I painted it black. And then just on the screen, I put UV resin and I cured that. So that way it would look like the phone was off. I thought that that was really cute. And it honestly turned out kind of better than I thought it would. And then for the little bunny for her phone charm, I painted that super simply. I just painted it white, and then I did 2 little black dots for eyes. I made them look shiny with a little white dot in the middle, and then I did a little pink nose, a little bunny nose. And then I also covered the whole thing in UV resin and cured that as well, so that way I just knew that the paint wouldn't chip off. And then I found a little black string. It's actually from a phone strap that I have, and I just UV resined that as well onto the bunny, so that way it did have its own little strap. I think this turned out so cute. It was tiny to work with, but I loved doing it. And then from there, I just went ahead and glued that onto the phone, so that way it looked complete. And then I had a little phone with a little bunny strap for her. I thought that was really cute. So the next thing I wanted to dive into making was the wired headphones. I had a pretty good idea of how I was going to make these. So I had the little clay parts that I made her for her ears, painted those white, and then I used the same string that I used for the phone strap for the wire for the headphones. And it was black, but I easily painted it white, and I like resined it in a way that, you know, would make sense, so that way it looked like headphones. And then I attached that to the phone, so it was all one piece. It ended up looking so cute. I loved how that turned out. I really like how it looks all as one piece, and it did turn out a lot better than I thought it would and how I imagined, so I'm really happy about that. So after making her headphones and everything else, it was time to do her purse. I was so excited to make her a little purse. I actually ended up finding a lot of really useful materials in this craft kit that I forgot that my mom gave me for Christmas one year. So I went ahead and I busted this sucker out. It's really cute actually. I wanted to make sure I didn't like make it to where I can't actually do the project. But I found a lot of like really cute little fabrics and stuff, so I went through those and they were pink, and a lot of my purses are pink, as you guys know. So I went ahead and I made a little pattern out of blue painter's tape, and I made sure that it looked like to size on her, and then I went ahead and I cut out those same pieces for the fabric. And I didn't want to sew it because that just felt like a lot of work, and I'm also not good at sewing. So I just went ahead and I glued it, like the pieces together, and it honestly turned out pretty cute. And then I wanted to have like a little ribbon that I attached to it. So I cut out this little piece of lace and then I just tied it to her bag, and I think it ended up really, really cute. So the next step, I wanted to make sure that she had some different clothing options. So I used that same piece of lace that I used to tie onto her bag. I cut a piece of that into a little tube top for her, and I think it turned out so cute, like way cuter than I thought it would. The way that the lace just like looks makes it look purposeful, so I love that. I think it turned out awesome. And then I found this piece of trim and I turned that into a little tennis skirt, and it was really easy to make both of these. It was literally just like a tube for both of them. And they're just like the cutest pieces of clothing ever, like cuter than the shit that I was finding on AliExpress. So I love that. So it was finally time to go ahead and do her actual face, because her face at this point was bothering me so much. I just wanted to get it done. So I went ahead and I took her head apart finally. It was really easy to do. You either just need like a tiny little screwdriver or like one of those little screwdriver things that come in like every single IKEA kit. I forget what they're called. But I went ahead and I took her head apart. Her eyes came out and everything, so I literally just had her face plate to work with. So I used a few pigments that I had. It's like a mix of like pigments, acrylic paint, and then actual makeup. I just figured that like a lot of the eyeshadows I had were probably similar to like loose pigments if I, you know, made them loose. I don't know. I just needed something that was going to look smooth and nice and like actually cute. And I was just determined to use what I had. So that's what I used for her face. So I added some pretty cute heavy blush. I love using very pink blush on myself. So I literally used the same blush that I used for me on her, and I thought that that was really cute, and I think it made her look really just cheeky and alive. I added little freckles, and I made sure that around her eyes it was very smoky. I really want her eyes to stand out a lot, and I wasn't going to keep the lashes that she came with, and I wasn't going to add any more lashes. I've seen a lot of Blythe dolls without the lashes, and I just think that they look better. So I knew that I just wanted to make sure that her eyes were gonna pop and I wasn't gonna have the lashes. So I used a pretty dark brown around her eyes. And then I also added her little eyebrows as well. I repainted her eyelids too. So that way when her eyes were closed, it would be a very like dark brown, like bronzy, pretty color, and that it would be a bit shiny and metallic looking. So I thought that that was gonna be a really good combination with the color I was using for like around her eye socket. I also colored her lips, and then I put resin on her lips, that same UV resin that I've been using to give it that shiny color. It also added some volume back from where I sanded it down a little bit. So I really liked that. It gave her more of like a cute Bratz look, and I really like the resin. I think that that was a really good move. So her final face, her final makeup, I think turned out so adorable. I really like her face now, and I think looking at it, it just looks so much more high quality and better than the original one. So I would definitely recommend using more looser pigment, more mixed mediums, and just definitely not regular colored pencils. That was a dumb move on my part. So I wanted to make sure that her final hairstyling looked good as well. So I went ahead and I just laid her hair down to her head with some hair ties that I had. Most people's hair isn't super duper like voluptuous, and I wanted it to be a good mix of like still cute and like doll-like, but a little bit more realistic looking. So I put it close to her head, and then I hairsprayed the crap out of it so that way it would stay there. And then I also put some pigment on the top of her roots, because obviously my roots are quite dark and hers were just not matching as well as they could have been with mine. So I did that just to try to match her hair a little bit more. Definitely still doesn't look like my hair, but it's fine. I also put translucent powder all over her hair to get rid of some of the shine, just again to make it look a little bit more realistic and like expensive. I also added a little gold necklace around her neck as well. It was really easy to do. It just was a little bit of like this gold material that came in that same craft kit. And then spontaneously, I made a silly decision. I was like, she needs her own mini-me to carry around. Like if I'm gonna have my mini-me needs a mini-me, you know? So I found this cute little doll in my stash of like craft supplies, and it just, her face reminded me of a Blythe doll, so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do it. And it was really easy. I just opened her up. I painted her hair and her clothes to look a little bit more like my Blythe doll, and I think that it turned out really cute. So the final touch was to go ahead and just paint on some white shoes for her. At this point, I had totally given up on the shoes. Her feet are so tiny. Like, if you guys know how tiny like the Polly Pockets were when the Polly Pockets had like chewy clothes, her feet are like that small. They're like tiny. So I could probably order Polly Pocket shoes, but I just decided for now to go ahead and paint her feet so that way it just kind of looked like she had shoes on. And then I put her in her little outfit and styled it all together. I also went ahead and glued on the phone and the headphones, and putting her all together, she looked so adorable. This is her in her first little outfit. This is her in her second little outfit. Personally, my favorite is the little beanie outfit. I think it's just really casual, and I like all of the little accessories, and I don't know, I'm just a big fan. But also her with the skirt on is very, very cute as well. So that is my video customizing my first Blythe doll, or my first doll ever. I really hope you guys enjoyed. Please let me know what your favorite part was and what your favorite thing I made for her was, and if you plan on doing your own doll customization as well. I hope I inspired you guys to at least pick up another random little hobby, and again, you don't have to, you know, buy a lot for it either. You can just use what you have and still come up with some really cute creative things. So again, I really hope you enjoyed. Please like this video and comment. It helps my channel grow so much, and we are almost at 3,000 subscribers. What the fuck? That's insane. Like, I am so thankful and excited to see this community growing, and just all of your comments are so sweet, and I just thank you guys so much. So I hope you have such a wonderful day. I hope you enjoyed, and thank you for watching. Bye bye.